Nation. Today we have coming to us direct from the United States. It's Chad Wilson. Chad Wilson is running to be the leader of the Green Party for 2020. It's Chad Wilson for president. Hi, Chad. Thanks for joining us on Dead Nation.
How's it going, man? Thanks for having me.
So we had you on a cross-party debate where I just fired issues, bang, 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 and that was a bit crazy because there were so many issues, and there was 4 people, and it was 3 people debating cross-platform. How did you find that debate?
Actually, I thought it was enlightening because it seems like there's a lot of middle ground that I think people kind of agree on. Most of the issues, like the vehicle of how to get to these places, and then just the way they're framed, the narrative. I think it's positive. I think there should be more of that. Where it's not uncomfortable to debate or talk to other little tribes or whatnot. I don't think it should be like a tribalist mentality when it comes to politics, anyways. So.
Yeah. So I agree. So it was interesting because you have a cool website here. That's chadwilson.us. It's Chad Wilson for President 2020, and you've got a whole bunch of your party platform and what you envision, which is good stuff. And so we're gonna go through that. But contextualize for us your adventure, your journey, your personal journey into the realm of politics, which is the stickiest mess of them all. I mean, it's something you do when you're 90 years old and you're about to drop off the edge because no one else wants to do it. Chad Wilson, why are you doing this mad thing?
Well, that's a good question. And sometimes I ask myself that. It's pretty intense. I feel like there's nobody else that's articulating the things that I feel are important enough to be articulated. It's not to say that people aren't talking about it, because there are a lot of fringe groups. There's a lot of, in fact, there's a lot of people on, various political leanings that kind of feel the same about certain root issues, but nobody's focusing on those root issues. They're focusing just on being upset at the boilerplate wedge issues, like the output of the bad policies. And I'm tired of the hoopla. Tired of going around and around. I've spent hours and hours arguing, cussing people out, family, friends, all over the board. So I've gone full circle, and that's led me to an understanding of, the processing of why the root of why people feel a certain way, rather than just focusing on, the boilerplate issue that people are just ignoring because it's the devil they know. They have to pick a side. 2-party system. So nobody else is saying what I want to hear. So until that happens.
So the last Green Party member I remember, because I don't follow the Green Party too closely, but it was Jill Stein. She really shone. She shone like a bright light in the dark. Did you take much inspiration from Jill Stein?
I did. I like Jill Stein. I voted for her in 2016. I thought it was kind of refreshing to hear her knowledge of a lot of these issues, and just to hear, the her angle of how she wants to approach things. I have my concerns, obviously, with her, but I think that it was perfect for what the Green Party needed in order to get us to the next level. But again, I still feel like there's a little bit of a leadership issue, because they're a little soft. And again, I love Jill Stein, for what she represents and her knowledge and stuff. It's just, for me, I want to see somebody that's going to go and on the offense and really tear these people's heads off, non-violently. I was talking it.
Metaphorically.
Be clear on that. Because non-violence, I believe, really is the key. It's the only way that we can do this now, especially since we have social media to be able to exchange these ideas. But I love Jill Stein, and she kind of brought me into the Green Party as far as got my attention to it. I thought there was a lot of integrity moves that she made during that time that was cool. But now looking back and seeing kind of the mismanagement of the party and some of the toxic issues which we can get into, um, I'm not as impressed, because there's still a little bit of censorship because, well, parties, groups, churches, schools, leadership in general don't like to be told they're doing something wrong. And when you speak out, even with valid criticism, they will censor you or say that you're attacking them. So there's not a very good, healthy dialogue that's come from it, but that's something I want to bring into the party for sure.
All right, yeah, that makes sense. If I'll ask you that question later, actually. All right, so let's go through your website because it's a great looking little website here. It says, "I am seeking the Green Party presidential nomination. Please let these 4 pillars be our guide: ecological wisdom, social justice, grassroots democracy, and non-violence." So why did you pick these 4 as opposed to something more captivating like Elizabeth Warren would break up the banks, or some sort of policy like end foreign wars or something like that? I mean, non-violence encapsulates some of that, but why these 4 pillars?
Well, these are actually the 4 pillars of the Green Party. It was one of the things that made me really interested, because they also have a 10 key values, which there's another problem, because I'm going into this because we run into a lot of issues that keep the party from growing. The 10 key values is another part of the party, and I feel like it falls underneath these 4 kind of umbrella type issues. So using these as a blanket space makes it easier for people to feel comfortable with these ideas, like the ecological wisdom. Basically, we have to realize what's around us, the earth that we use, that we all share. We have to make sure that we pay attention to it and be careful with it. I mean, it's pretty smart. So that leads obviously to climate change, correcting it. That kind of stuff. You could draw a lot of issues underneath that. The social justice, it encompasses everyone from the system, the elite. These corrupt people have screwed over everybody, from the food, the water, the air, the soil. There's so many things that they've screwed up. Everybody deserves justice. So again, it's blanket for everyone. Grassroots democracy, that means it's about everyone on the bottom level. Everyone has their voice. It starts from the people that really feel these policies, really experience the shitty end of it. And then the nonviolence, again, that I was talking about, it has to be the way forward. If we can, as a society, learn to use our brains, especially with social media, this is our opportunity to stop using violence as a way to handle our problems. And that, of course, goes into why all these things are happening. Look at the way we're destroying the world. Look at our kids acting out. All these things are happening because or violence in general is our way of expressing it, and that's something that I felt like is the key point. Because once you go violent in any which way, even if you're protecting, I mean, I understand you protect yourself, but if you go on the offense in the violent way, then you're defeating the purpose, because it's always going to be violence begets violence begets violence. It's just going to continue. So it's got to start here somewhere.
And your other pillar was grassroots democracy. Do you want to go into that a little bit? Oh, your microphone's gone.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's basically starts from the bottom. The grassroots, the people have their voice heard. They should be able to, if they're in the community, they need something in their community, they should be able to make sure that that's there. They need to make sure that somebody's not, taking these contracts, screwing over the people that are having to deal with this stuff. And then, it puts the power in people's hands where it should be, where they say that it is, but of course it's not. So.
Cool. Yeah. So I've got the key values here, and that's grassroots democracy, social justice, and equal opportunity, ecological wisdom, non-violence, decentralization, community-based economics, feminism and gender equity, respect for diversity, personal and global responsibility, future focus, and sustainability. So that's what you say falls underneath these categories, these four pillars.
The four pillars.
Is builds upon or falls under or whatever, however you want to describe it. Actually, I entitled the episode "Hang 'em High" because even though you applaud non-violence, it's "Hang 'em High" because I know you don't like elites, so so it's "Hang 'em High," but under the context of non-violence. So why are you running for president? It says here you're tired. You're sick and tired of. But you're saying in your little manifesto that you're sick and tired a little bit of the internal disruption within the Greens Party. Is that the main driver? You want to clean out the leadership of the Greens and do a clean sweep and then get them back on message, or what?
Well, I mean, it kind of all plays together. Again, the pillars are there, the ideas there, the Green Party, the purpose, and the Green Party is a big party across the world. They have different, bigger parties in other countries. So understanding that it's there, and understanding that the infrastructure has been being built. Jill Stein was on 48 states so she could have actually been voted in because there was enough states to get the electoral college votes. So there was a real possibility there. So there's a lot of underlying reasons, and I just believe because of the four pillars that it's our best shot to break the two-party system, and understanding that it doesn't matter how good we think these people are, or how much we like somebody in the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, it's still the two-party system. If you think that you can only pick one side or the other, and that's your only two options, that's the problem. And that's why if you don't break the two-party system, nothing's ever going to change, because it's controlled opposition all the time. So that's why coming into the Green Party, I'm seeing all this shit that's going on that nobody wants to talk about, that nobody feels comfortable talking about it, and the people that are talking about it are, they've got these little tribes, and they end up doing the same thing that they're against. So it's a weird culture thing that's going on, but people want the same thing. Even I even look at it like this. Right now, the right is more anti-corruption, anti-establishment than the left is. The left is being gaslit to be okay with propping up the same people that gave us the guy that they don't like. So if we don't all come to the agreement or understand that if the two-party system continues to exist, we keep putting energy, putting time, putting money, effort into this, then nothing ever really going to change. Until they're scared, they're not going to do anything. The incrementalism, or they're going to go the other way and do some, allow some, some crazy things to happen in order to keep people afraid and keep us in their paradigm.
So you talk a lot about the system, or our system, and how the military, the intelligence agencies, the police, and others are part of the mechanism of the system of the elite. How does the system work? Is it a pyramid structure? Is it a circular flow? Is it some sort? What is the system, and how is it corrupt, and who controls it? And let's talk about that.
All right. Well, there's a lot of mechanisms that of course make it work, because it's built on culture. The media itself is that's how they manufacture the consent. That's how they create the actual conversation, the parameters of the conversation.
That's Noam Chomsky, right? Manufactured consent, right? Sorry.
Exactly. So they decide what our issues are. They're not talking about being anti-war. In fact, the only time they're praising Trump on the left media, and I say left-right media because I'm talking in the two-party headspace. It's not to offend somebody that feels like they're left, but or defend somebody that feels like on the right. The idea is to understand that as long as we're in the headspace, that's the key, and that's what the media does. Is it makes you think that you can only pick one or two of the other, and that these issues that they put out are the deciding factors of which side you pick. So that's part of it. Uh, you have it's really in these families, these big money interests. They understand how the system works itself, the government system. They understand how the contracts work because we are a sovereign nation. Congress, they decide the spending. So how, regardless of how people want to look at it, where it comes from or whatever, the money that's going out is being distributed in a way that it's a slush fund for all these people that play the game and are involved. And it's been being slushed around for a long time because a lot of these same families, they're groomed, they're brought up, they're raised, they're taught to think these certain ways. And again, it's not to talk bad about money, because there's nothing wrong with money. There's nothing wrong with having a value, creating value and then selling that value, creating something of value. It's just when it's the predatory capitalism. It's the, hey, I'm going to be romantic with making my money this way while it's hurting all these other people. So just understand it's really the contracts and how the money flows around. You've got the media. So GE owns part of some of these major media. They also own weapons manufacturing. So they make sure to promote war on their media station, which there's that manufacturing consent, and so they're feeding themselves all these different ways. So as long as they're putting bread into the system, then they're good. So what happens? They put the bread into the system, and then whether it be towards a candidate or whatnot, and then that candidate spins it back into the system that the media, where they already own that. So again, it's just passing all this money around slush fund, because they know that at the end of the day, when Congress writes that check, that budget every year, that they're going to get a fresh new set of contracts, a fresh new set of bread coming their way. And if you play game, you play ball, you'll get a piece of that. That's the real trickle down. And the problem is that just like in prohibition, when you have the law enforcement, the policies, it breeds a certain type of person to be able to facilitate those roles. So if you're going to be in that job, you have to put up with shit. So in prohibition, the government was poisoning alcohol. They're going around all the while, while they're busting up all these the places where they're actually bootlegging and stuff like that. All the while, the Kennedys are making money. All these politicians are making money. Everybody's having a grand old time. You go to these major cities, and it's the cool thing to be going, having a drink. You got cops looking out on the take. So then you have a real dilemma. Then you're like, okay, well, who's right? Who's wrong? You got Al Capone, that was considered a man of the people because he was doing so much with the soup kitchens and stuff like that. He was making bread off the system, off the bullshit system, and so understanding that the laws, the policies creates the shadows that forces people to live in, and that's why cannabis, because there's so many things connected to cannabis. With more people in jail for cannabis than all violent crimes combined, blacks, minorities 4 to 5 times as likely to be incarcerated, longer sentences, all that stuff. Understanding that they take the ending result, the more black people in jail, and report that as, oh, black people are in jail because therefore they must be more criminal. And then that's how they scare the white community. That's how they keep a paradigm, because the only thing that they use to put out there is a certain type of image of of the black man, or of they want to promote a certain type of throwing money around.
So it's a cyclical system at the top. So you've got Congress, which dishes out money to recipients, who then spend that money in a way that promotes policies that they can get that money back through Congress, which does it all again, meanwhile hurting everybody all along the way. Like Boeing, or some of these companies, for example. And I'm not sure if this is 100% relevant to what you're talking about, but if you're talking about manufacturing consent or manufacturing democracy, for example, they'll build a plant of they'll have a component like they have to build a fighter jet or something, and they'll build a plant in a state, and then they'll make a congressman rely on that plant for jobs. And then they said, if you don't give us money, we'll remove the plant from that state. But they've built it over all the different states, and so they make all the different congressmen all over the country say, we must build this fighter jet because it's reliant on our jobs. And and so and then you get the war hawks who say, hey, we've got all these fighter jets, we need to use them, otherwise we're going to end up with a surplus of old fighter jets. So yeah, so it's kind of interesting. So the media feeds, yeah, okay, yeah, I kind of get it. All right, so that's very interesting. Cannabis is an interesting one because cannabis is starting to be legalized all across the place. So I want to know how you feel about that. But let's go on to some of these. Let's go on to some of these green guarantee here. So you want 100% renewable energy. Why 100%? Don't you think it's a bit excessive?
No, I mean, I think that there's still going to be, applications and things to use, fossil fuel, and but there's just the need for it is going to be so small. If we're able to manufacture and create a way to turn all these fossil fuel ran things, gasoline engines, whatnot, over to renewable, and that's just one thing. Then I don't understand why anybody would want to use. Why would they would want to continue paying for more stuff if the energy would just renew what they needed, and that's putting effort and energy into that. And I think that leads to the climate sustainability. Having these things set up on a base level that says, okay, your energy, it's free, so your house is going to be heated. You're never going to have to worry about that. You obviously maintenance and something like that to keep certain things. It's going to be a whole new industry, really, because we're going to have to retrofit all these old houses, all these things. Elon Musk is doing the solar panel roofs now. That's what he's developing. So there's a lot of things that we could do. I wouldn't see the need for anything else.
With this target of 100%, how would you get there? Would you get the government to pump out, enforce, pump out these resources, these energy infrastructure ideas, and give them to people? Or would you enforce laws where it's like every new house must have this and every old house must be retrofitted, or a mix of policies or subsidies? Or have you got an idea of how you would get to such a lofty target?
Well, I mean, I definitely take some time to implement everything, but I think that's where the job programs come in, because the government should make sure that our citizens are taken care of, and having the access to unlimited energy, especially in being able to have these smaller circuits. That way we're not on the same grid line. There's a lot of benefits, a lot of money that could be directed automatically. I don't think that it's something that I would want to make people do, because there's going to be enough energy going around, because once you're done using your energy, you could sell it back to these companies, or direct the energy in a co-op manner. You could maybe have a certain amount of houses in a small town that could generate enough energy for the whole town. It just depends. There's the tech and the conversation is where this really goes to the next level, and that's the guarantee is that we're going to put this to work. It has to happen. We need to make sure that people are clothed, housed, fed. Your basic quality of life is there, so everything else is off that basic level where people can focus on innovation and moving the country lives forward. It should be, energy's free. Solar energy's free. It should be.
When you become the green nominee, can you go and see Elon Musk and say hi from me at Solar City over there in California or wherever he is?
I will definitely. And I doubt I could get him to smoke a blunt with me. I don't have
You're not
Joe
Joe
Rogan's
Rogan.
power.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
special superpower, that sort of stuff.
Well, he didn't really inhale though. That's the whole thing. Like, but
All right,
one would argue.
let's talk about agricultural co-op systems. So why agricultural co-op systems? What's wrong with supermarkets?
Well, we can still have supermarkets. I think that it's just about reframing, renaming everything, and how we distribute and how we use our workforce. The co-op system basically says there's so much land, especially in the South, so much land, so many empty buildings. Uh, we can do these agriculture, food banks, food growing places, and then of course, have an analog store, have a supermarket for people to buy from. But the idea is to be able to organize the resources to where you don't have to pay crazy prices. That the only reason why the price is so high, anyways, is because of all the hands that it has to pass through in order to get there. Like food, it needs to be something that everybody has, and like I said, we have access to the land, we have access to the internet. This is everything right here. Everything we can communicate, make sure nobody's without feeling like we are um, throwing a, of course we're throwing away stuff now. I mean, supermarkets, that would be the first thing anyways, is to ban supermarkets from throwing away food that can be used. They need to go directly to you know uh, different places.
So is it an
Thanks.
agricultural co-op system, or is it vertical farming that you're talking about?
Well, the co-op system, anything that needs to be grown, I want to organize like an Ocean's 11 type thing, and the co-op idea is kind of infused with everything. So understand that everybody plays a different role, everybody does a different job to create one goal, one output, and then having a system, a structure set up to say, okay, well, once we all do our part, this is what comes out of it. It's basically working for yourself, but having access to people that can help you. You can build coalitions with groups and businesses with to say, okay, let's put our effort together and create a product. So we're going around these corrupt people. We're going around these billionaire people. When people say, "Oh, bring the jobs back," screw their jobs. I don't want their jobs back. We don't need their jobs back. We just need to understand that we can organize the workforce, and the internet is our direct to consumer. You can make $100 product, sell to 1,000 people, and you've made $100,000. Of course, your cost and all that kind of stuff is involved. But the point there is, if we frame and look at the way we sell our labor, we can make a lot of change tomorrow or today.
Seller
Does
labor,
that help?
interesting. Yeah, interesting. Infrastructure upgrade. So you think Trump's not doing enough to work on infrastructure?
No, no, I don't.
Bernie
Uh,
Sanders had I think like a $1 trillion infrastructure plan. Is that similar to yours?
uh, I don't care about the money. To be honest, I don't look at at the money wise, because when you're stuff like that, is like that shit's a wash, because you're investing into your country to make sure people can move around, make sure people have everything that they need. Your bridges, roads. I want to include the internet as a utility. Add that, involve that. I mean, that's your education. There's so many things that the government should take care of, basic stuff. So again, we can move around freely and not have to deal with all the nonsense. Um, you're I want to, of course, the mail, the post office. I want to beef them up, give them what they've been needing. Um, Need to really put in the libraries, put money into the libraries, and build that up for communities, especially like the rural areas. Have laptops available. There's so many laptops and phones, reusable stuff that people either just throw away or go sell for $10. Everybody has access to having something that could change their life. Or we should all have access. There's enough material is what I'm saying. There's enough out there already. We don't have to create anything new in order for people to have a clothing house. There's empty houses like crazy.
I saw a meme once, and it was an alien, and this was just after the foreclosed crisis, which is coming again to a street near you in America. But and it was like, we've got a homeless problem. You've got a bunch of homeless people and a bunch of empty houses. Why don't the people put the homeless people into the houses? It's just like common sense, but instead it doesn't work like that. So it's kind of interesting. But all right, so digitization of all records. What you've got that in all caps? What's going on there?
Because what I do is title searching. So basically, I do a property report for residential or commercial property. So when someone buys, sells, they need to know like who owns it, what mortgages are on the property. Basically, if you're lending money on a property, you want to know that someone's not going to come back and say, "Hey, I own this piece," or you're going to lose your money. So I understand, how the record keeping works and how the real estate industry specifically. So you have a lot of them are scanned in or digitized, but they're not like cataloged and actually typed in and organized in a certain way. You can't type one thing and create this crazy algorithm that pulls all this information. So what I want to do is scan everything in, make sure everything is organized, and then connect everything. When it comes to like your clerk and masters, which they handle probate issues, sometimes you're doing a report on a property, and there was a probate, so you need to get that. It should be something as easy as pressing a button to have all this stuff digitized. And also, what that does is you're able to put in records, and again, it's how you set it up. You put in records of again everything. We can use that to find out about, when it comes to slavery, like how it's affected people. There's a lot of ways that we can use this information. We can use when it comes to law enforcement, we could say, okay, let's see this judge, or let's see who put more black people in jail for cannabis, even though at the same rate. Trying to frame it. Basically use the legal system, or input all the legal system, so you can find out who's been doing the dirty, who's been on the take kind of thing. You say, well, why does everybody on your side go to jail for this, but this guy's not? You can actually look at the report.
Who's miscarrying justice. Yeah,
right. You said it a lot better than I did. But yeah. So I want it on. I feel like that, and we'll get to it too, is the reparations initiative, because I want to make sure people are people are owed a quality of life regardless. A lot of these things, are extra, are added to what somebody's owed as a human being. So I want to make sure that we're able to really tell true history, real history, and have the facts and have the document, the data to back it up. And that gives us an opportunity and a platform, a format to do it.
Who'd be really interesting to talk to on this point? Go and talk to Mormons. Mormons are obsessed with their history. It's part of their historical trajectory and their religious faith, because they're embedded in this family idea of the eternal family. So they're very conscious and very good record keepers. So if I were you, go and talk to some Mormons, interview some Mormons, go talk to some Mormons. They have they're very big on the digitization of records. They have huge vaults out in the middle of Utah somewhere, nuclear-proof vaults that enable them to keep all their records safe, family lineage, and all this other stuff. So, you want some ideas on that? Go and talk to some Mormons. Renewable materials cataloged and distributed. I've never heard of this in my life. What's this?
So there's all sorts of different things that are coming up. I don't know if you've seen the way that they make plastic. They take plastic and make these building blocks from it to build houses. Being out in the country, you can go and see all these old houses they've got that are broken down, but they've got a lot of salvageable wood. Some of this wood's 100 years old, a couple hundred years old, but it's good wood. You just have to be able to understand how to use it, reuse it, and repurpose it. If you go on Pinterest, you could see how people take these things and create so many cool things just with pallet wood, just with an old piece of barn wood, painting home on it, putting keychain things. There's so many little things that people can do by arts and crafts that we could make sure that people, first of all, people don't go without. But the big thing is the actual building materials. Like they'll tear down these old brick buildings and then they'll sell the brick. And then I know some people that they take that brick and they make it their floor, or they do the pallet wood, the shiplap on the wall. There's so many cool things that it can be reused for, as well as imagine couches. You got all these cool couches, maybe they're comfortable, maybe they're not, but you could learn understanding how to upholster. You can re-upholster and have a cool couch rather than going and spending money to buy something brand new that's I don't know, different. But understanding that, well, first of all, the country in the South, like, thrifting is a huge thing. So a lot of people have, first of all, a lot of junk that they've accumulated. eBay is a big way to start selling that stuff, but having that access to organize those resources, say, okay, I need this, I need that, I need that. Let's figure out a bartering system to again rebuild these towns. A guy here in Woodbury, Tennessee, he does a reclaim store, antiques and reclaim, and that's something that he says he's been talking about too. I mean, Country Cat takes stuff.
You know what? This sounds less like it should be a political policy, more like you're the next billionaire if you implemented this as a corporation. If you invented this as a corporation, I reckon you'd be very, very rich if you could reorganize these resources based on a ledger system. I think you'd be very rich and you'd probably achieve your outcome anyway. I think the government would probably be a bit inefficient, but if you're gonna start that business, I want to be involved in that.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, but that's the whole point. I mean, they have these repurposed stores already. It's just anything. It's taking it to the next level. And I mean, and you're right. That's something that the government's not going to do because they're in the, they're not in that business. But that's what I feel like as the government. That's what they should do. All this stuff that's not being used, that's waste. We can really start to clean up that, and especially with the plastic stuff. I don't know if you've actually looked at some of the things that they could make with using this plastic and 3D printing and stuff like that, where they can. It's crazy. We just have to make it easier for people to do that. Say you need something made. Okay, well, bring in a bunch of plastic, to the 3D printer center, and make you something or whatnot. And,
all right.
Design. So it's you're right that it can be a business like that, and that's the cool thing about my platform is these are the things we can do even if I don't get in the office. This is how we can make sure people are straight regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not sure how close you are to getting to the top of the office, but good luck. Here you got Climate Sustainability Agency. Like, there's a few already, right? But you want a new climate sustainability agency, or is this the CSA or what?
Um, well, the thing about all our agencies, good or bad, there's up and down. They've got little holes, little things in there that's messed up. So I'm at this point, I'm for the idea of things that are there, but to reimagine and redesign everything from a ground up, because we're obviously spending our resources the wrong way. We're obviously looking at the wrong things with all these agencies. We're doing a lot of things wrong. So rather than just fight people on terminology and things that are already there, just take the gist of it and then start from scratch. And I think that's another thing that's going to make people feel more comfortable. You don't have to argue about the BS, about the BS, the names, because people focus so much on like arguing socialism or arguing this or that. Like it gets too muddy because everybody's definition includes something else, or this little nuance of this or that, or it's just too much. So but we need to make sure that our climate is going to sustain us as humans. Make sure that we take care of our country, of the world. I mean, it's pretty simple, but I'm not trying to make it a wedge issue where, like, pointing your finger at somebody. I think it's all about framing. The renewable energy, it can sell it all, because it's all underneath that, all of it.
It's very interesting. So, climate change and the climate is one of these huge topics in the world. I mean, the world is almost completely split down the middle on the issue. You've got a lot of people in the West who either deny it happens, or they're skeptical of it happening, or they say, it's happening, but it's going to happen in a different way. So, some say global warming, it doesn't matter, it's going to make us richer, as Canada, for example, it's going to become a grain super exporter, and the Midwest there, or the mid America, Mississippi Delta area, the grain fields are just going to move up slightly, but it's fine. Others say, this is bad because it's going to induce more refugees, more climate refugees, and that's a problem. So therefore, build a wall. I mean, whether people like it or not, Donald Trump is building a wall, right? And why are they building a wall? Because they're anticipating in the mid-century hundreds of millions of people to be coming up to the United States. And why? Well, it's not just because of wars. It's because of global dislocation, because of climate. And some people say, well, it's not the warming you have to worry about, it's the climate cooling, because it's all to do with the sun. It's all the sunspots, it's the United Nations has got it all wrong. It's not about carbon dioxide in the atmosphere with the greenhouse effect. It's about the sun, and the sunspots are going away, and we're going to go into global cooling crisis. But, and then other people say, forget, both of those things aren't going to happen. We're just going to continue on this current trajectory, and we just have to stop deforesting everything, and we have to stop Brazil from cutting down all the rainforests, and everything will be okay in the end. There's no such thing. Yeah. So the people are all divided all across the world on the climate issue. And, the left call for climate justice. They call, and the right say, oh, well, we'll just deal with the measures using a mix of government, capitalist policies, and other things. Climate sustainability, it's huge in the Green Party. Where do they stand on the global warming issue? Where are they? Global cooling is coming, global warming is coming. It doesn't matter. It's all here now. Is it a species problem? I mean, is it the humans are too successful and they've come to dominate the planet too much? What's the thinking within the party? I mean, because they're a massively influential party when it comes to they're on the Democrat left, right? They're the Democratic left. They're punching, they influence the Democrats. So, when we hear, when the Republicans, when they hear the Republicans, like, you know, well, they do, but they've got Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren in there who, you know, who are basically shadows of the Green Party. But like, when we hear those centrist opinions coming out of the Democratic mouthpiece, what do they actually think? You know, in line with this, is it global cooling, global warming, species problem? What are they thinking?
Well, the Green Party, it's all over the place. I mean, I think it's basically, you know, global warming, and that it's messing up the climate in different ways. You know, because it's not just it's making it warmer, like it's just making the seasons extremer, certain things like the weather more intense. So I think that people understand that it's mainly mainly that it's, of course, the military and of course these big companies that are adding so much. Of course, I'm sure that everybody feels too that we as individuals add to it as well. I have a hard time sometimes kind of trying to find a you know, with the party, because I mean there's a lot of people that still in the party support kind of Bernie Sanders. There's a lot of people that believe in the Russiagate thing. So it's not that people don't believe in it. I guess it really has to do with their tribe and how or what they focus on more. Because I guess that's the way it's said. Because a lot of times it's not that people are saying that this isn't the cause or this isn't a part of the cause. It's just that they're hyper focused on one piece of it, and then that's what they're, you know, championing, rather than saying, okay, it's a cumulative of all these different things, and we just got to make sure, you know, we are aware of how we are adding to what's happening. You know, just this study, we need to really understand, and we need to make it available. Go ahead.
Do they ever talk about the military influence, you know, of HARP and other military projects about dominating the technology space in terms of the weather? I know the Air Force came out with Doctrine 2025, which said that they want to completely control the Earth's systems in line with the Kardashev scale. So dominate the world's weather systems by 2025 using high-frequency waves in the ionosphere. Does this ever come up? Do people ever talk about the military influence over the jet stream and the Gulf Stream and how that impacts climate? Do they talk about this stuff over there in the Green Party?
I haven't heard much of that. Again, you know, I kind of tune out after a while sometimes. You know, I mean, to be honest.
Have you ever heard that?
Yes, I mean, I've heard a lot about it. I haven't heard actually about the 2025 thing, but I have heard about, you know, how they use certain things in order to, you know, to manipulate the weather, and that they're obviously working on it. And I believe they want to do something too about creating some sort of screen or something. I don't have to put something in the atmosphere which makes me think of the Matrix. Like, who wants to block? Why are you going to block out the sun? Like that's like.
So that's the chemtrails. Yeah, they're putting the iron oxidants in the atmosphere in order to stimulate certain elements. So you basically, with that, you could turn the world into a giant TV screen, or you could manipulate the weather, or you could. It's essentially a prison planet. It's very interesting, but because the big one that comes up is the High Active Aurora Research Center, HARP, in Alaska. And that was then sold on to the University of Alaska or somewhere. But that's the one. But the technology, I mean, that's a very old facility. That's 1990 something facility. You know, and they've done a lot of tests there. It's sort of outmoded, and when they sold it on, the main reason they sold it on is because that tech is old. That's old school. Like they've got more high powered, more portable. You know, that they can go around. They can put these things on ships now. They're probably just a cargo carrier out there. And they've been slinging weather at each other for a long time. I mean, the Soviet Union had their own facility, and they basically caused a drought in the 1980s in America. So so weather is a powerful tool. The military definitely it's a powerful tool. Why wouldn't you want to control the weather if you could cause a tsunami, if you could cause a massive hurricane? You can do so much more damage than an atomic bomb, and you can get away with it. So no, I think that these military aspects are underplayed by the left and by the right. I think people avoid talking about the military influence of the in the weather space, but it's interesting that doesn't come up more, according to what you're saying, in that space. But let's go on. So tech innovation, technology and innovation. Are you for it, or are you a Luddite and you're saying let's go back to Stone Ape theory? Let's go back to the Stone Age.
Well, I'm for it. I think it needs to be, just integrated into our lives. I mean, it is integrated into our lives, but I feel like we need to focus and move forward as a race, a human race, with tech and innovation as our goal. We should be able to live longer and do more things and create. We shouldn't stop. Basically, is how I feel, and we need to give people resources and the energy and the push to focus on that stuff. A lot of the problem when it comes to education is that people aren't given the opportunity to go down the roads, the fields, or have access to those things. I don't know if you've heard the book The Outliers. It's really cool. Basically talks about certain people being in a certain place at the right time, like Bill Gates, and where his brain was when computing was really popularized, and him being able to go and play around. So it talks about like hockey players, why the strongest hockey players are always born in January, which is, I mean,
Is that true?
Yeah, well, basically because of the cutoff date is that you're old enough if your birthday was born in January or something, to start the next this season, or you're something like that. You have to explain it, but tech innovation is everything, and we need to know how it affects our lives. We need to use it to be sure that if something happens, big solar flare burns out a bunch of stuff, that we're able to step up and maneuver how we need to, because that's another big thing that I hear people talking about. If we have a solar flare, which you can't see, I mean, we're screwed. Could be,
it's not a stupid point. There was a kernel mass ejection, and basically what happened was we were 8 days. So the Earth had, like, this happened a few months ago. So basically the Earth had moved and the flare went past, and we were like, if we had been 8 days earlier, we would have been in the path of that kernel mass ejection. So this is not a stupid point. This is a very fair point. And we did have a kernel mass ejection, a solar flare, in the 1800s, which left us absolutely devastated. And it wiped out everything. It wiped out the infrastructure of that time. So imagine the devastation that would have bring today. Absolutely, there's no stupid point. A very, very good point there. So you're all for technology. You're pro technology. You're all for safeguards on new technology and keeping good technology in the right people's hands and bad technology out of the wrong people's hands. That's good. So healthcare at wholesale.
Healthcare at wholesale. Again, reframing it. I don't know if you know anything about Gaddafi, Libya. Gaddafi, he had a system set up. You get trained to be a doctor, and you work for the government for 5 years. That pays for everything, and then you get training, whatever you do your thing, and then you go out to the private field, or you could still work on, with the government. it just makes sense to frame it that way. So when it comes to the schooling, when it comes to actual the pharmaceuticals, the drugs, when it comes to seeing doctors, actually finding out what's wrong with you, a lot of tech actually can help with that too. We should make it easier, just like you Uber, something like that. Healthcare at wholesale. We just can't have the middleman like they do in everything else. Over-regulate everything so they get like, you know, crazy bread. And that's another thing too. There is that's how they use the system. Is they make it where if you do become a doctor or you do get that opportunity, that you're in debt. So you're gonna have to take the money from the pharmaceutical because you want to pay off all the stuff that you have. So it's like it's 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 a mind thing is the way that they set everything up. I was trying to go back to how the system works, and that's just one when it comes to the healthcare. Uh, Again, there's no reason why technology can't find out what's wrong with you. Pretty simple. You have nurses, you have uh, people that handle specific things, and you go to these specific things to find out about you specifically. My lady, uh, she does nutrition. So, and understanding that people have their own chemical balance, their own thing. You get these tests done, you find out your balance, and then they design a diet, they design meds, they design everything around to your personal levels. So we need to understand that people getting certain treatments or getting certain things, it's not about them getting more than you. They're getting something specific to them. And that's the kind of key that I want to point out is you need something specific for you that somebody else may not need. You know, wholesale. If you can go to Sam's and buy a bunch of meat, for cheaper, a bunch of people should be able to say, okay, well, let's pay a little bread, and we have our own, doctor in the town. And of course, major stuff, things would change. Um, but with the big pharma and what they've done with the opioids and all these different things, some of these patents are going to be removed, taken away, and given. Monsanto, for all that they've done, all the patents are done. They've lost it. So they're not going to have the monopoly on these seeds and these how they've been doing it, because things are going to change. And once somebody gets in there, once actually someone starts saying, hey, these people, it's not the corporations. Like, yes, the corporations are damaging, but the problem is they're using these corporations to hide behind. That's how they do it. It's to prevent them from having personal liability to these things. That's the whole name of the game. That's why, people, the banks that were doing all the craziness in the last recession, that's why they didn't go to jail. That's why they were put in Obama's cabinet. So we need to make sure that we know it's the people behind these corporations, not focus on the corporations. It's the people that use this money, the people that do this. They're individuals that do it. They just hide behind these corporations. So, a lot of people are romantic about some of these companies, some of these businesses, because of the name and because they whatever they mean, their personal connection. So being able to separate the two is important, and I think it's important for the healthcare part, is because there's no reason why the insulin price should be where it is. You should have it whatever it costs to make. People shouldn't be dying because they're rationing their insulin. I mean, these people need to go to jail. It's murder. You're holding people's lives over their head because you want to make profit off of something that can be eradicated. You know what I mean? You just want a customer. So no more healthcare for profit. And once that's out, of course, a lot of people are going to lose money, but you can't be romantic with how you make your money. That's something that Gary Vaynerchuk says, which I love. I don't know if you know who Gary Vaynerchuk is. Gary V, he's basically like your modern day madman. He does all the social media things, and for major companies, big money. He's the one who started the wine library. Big money, but he shows how to use the internet, how to use these platforms in order to build your business, to build uh, what you're passionate about. And it's just an ideology of how we focus on this and how we encourage people to make money to off things that they believe in, that they like, understanding how to make money, how to build a business. You're not taught these kind of things because they don't want you to. They want to make it as hard as possible, and nothing is efficient.
Cool. Is everything okay in the background? I hear a little one. Is it a goat or?
Can you hear? Oh, I can hear. Yeah, she's
Everything's okay?
crying. Yeah, she's with her mom. She's
Oh, okay. All good.
from a
All right.
Yeah, I got a little one. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
I'm a
lovely.
proud papa.
What's
Proud
the
papa.
what's the name? What's the name?
Ava Jurley.
That's a beautiful name. Well, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. She's amazing. Pretty wild. Pretty wild. So that's another reason why I'm doing this. If I can't try or actually put effort into trying to make a better world for her, then I mean, what am who am I going to be, when she gets older? I want her to see that her pops is, trying, may fail, but he's trying. He believes in something, and if you don't believe you can make a change, then you're not going to. So you got to believe something.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Well, congratulations, and keep working hard. Let's go into the really fun stuff because this is fun. So, overturn Citizens United. What's all this about? What is Citizens United, and why do you want to overturn it? Why is that so fun?
Because I don't want corporations to have any more say. They don't need to be able to give a dime towards anything when it comes to the election. I'm done with it. These people they've ruined it. They've ruined their opportunity to show that they can be, cool with their money and do stuff for humanity. I mean, it's just proven that it doesn't work when corporations' interests are above humanity's. And having the direct democracy is going to kind of cancel some of that stuff out. So, I mean, it's not like corporations can actually vote.
Yeah, so for the Australian audience, like Citizens United was it Supreme Court? It was Supreme Court, right? It was a Supreme Court judgment where they sort of said that corporations are legally people, and therefore the money is basically speech, right? It's a mechanism of speech. And so then the more money you have, the more influence you have, and it's totally legal. Yeah, it's a problem, right?
It is. It's the main problem. Money in politics.
And it's a problem for small, because I'm a capitalist, obviously, so I don't agree with everything you say, but I'm not. That's my opinion, but but it's a problem for small businesses too, because they can't compete with Walmart, or they can't compete with some of these big ones. So I want a fair playing field for all businesses across, but if you have one business that has a lot more money than another, then that one gets precedence over these smaller businesses. And you see that distorts the capital cost structure, that distorts market incentives, that distorts the consumer incentives, that distorts consumer education. So that you get mispricing mechanisms and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm in favor of a lot of this stuff as well. To make it a more fair capitalist economy, as opposed to you, which is a little different. I mean, this is the thing. We can sit here and agree on that. Reinstate Glass-Steagall. I'm also for this 100%. I've been since since before I was born. What is Glass-Steagall, and why are we going to reinstate it? Chad Wilson for president.
Well, it's the investment and commercial banking. basically they can use whatever money they want to invest. So if they screw up on investment, they lose that money. They lose your money, and that's why they have to be uh, that's why it has to be bailed out, because it's going around slush fund, and that actually was put in place after the crash, and that was one of the things that kept things floating. And it's funny because you said like we don't agree on everything, but you're capitalist, and it's funny because it's not that. I feel like you know socialism could be a branch of capitalism as long as there's no predatory people in place. You know what I mean? So I guess I look at that free market part you're talking about, that uh, allowing people to the small guy do his thing is more important. You know what I mean? So um, I find it funny because I don't really get caught up in that, because everybody, if you create a product, you know you're creating money. You're creating capital. It's just the predatory capitalist, and that's where the framings is. It's like you can call Danny Ocean, the Ocean's 11, you can call them capitalists, or you can call them socialists. It just depends on how you want to look at it and how you divvy up the money. I'm just about people not abusing and exploiting people. Um, but yeah, but reinstate Glass-Steagall, that was something that the Clintons did. Clintons, because Bill's ruled by his wife. Um, he got rid of that. It was the Telecommunications Act, the crime bill. I mean, those three right there, huge problems with what's going on today. So I mean, call it what you want.
That's good. That's good to hear from the Greens Party that you're not in bed with the Clintons and you don't agree with the Clinton regime as well. I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged. They are slime. They're scum, pond scum. So I'm glad to hear that.
That's very nice. That's very nice of you to say it. That nice, because they're murderers. However you want to say it. To me, the way I look at it, and I don't mean that by like just individual. What they do, these policies that these people do, they know it's killing people. They are okay with the mass deaths that are occurring with these things just so they can stay in power. And it's not just them. It's your Elizabeth Warren. It's your Bernie Sanders. He doesn't care to the point where I'm going to prop up this same corrupt organization that screwed me, that took all your money, your time, your energy, and I'm not going to say a damn thing about it. When it comes to, I'm just going to promote them and be afraid of the guy that they created. All they have to do is pump money, create another boogeyman. So you want to make a boogeyman out of me? I'm hoping the establishment wants to play with me, because I'm a lot smarter than Trumpity Trump when it comes to being able to organize this shit. Like you say, a lot of these things can be done without the power of the office. It's the power of the people that can do some of these things. Because once the culture sets in, once people are here, the rest of the shit follows. Because the one thing that they do hold on to the most is their name, and their legacy, the reputation. More than anything, that is what these families hold on to. So we have to take them down. We don't even have to. They don't have to go to court. You don't have to be charged with criminal stuff. We can destroy these legacy families by destroying their legacy itself, the name themselves, by pointing out and organizing these resources and showing what they've done, how they've done it. Because there's people out there that got the dirt on it. In fact, that's why that's why I say I hope my NSA guy, whoever's watching over me, is a real patriot, because I mean they're the rank and file people and they got all the information. All we just need somebody in power that's going to release that shit. That's another thing, is any false flags, everything that the government's been doing, we're releasing everything. All JFK stuff, even all the alien stuff, all these we're releasing a lot of stuff, and we're gonna have counselors, because the PTSD is gonna be crazy once people find out all the shit that's going on. So I'm ready. I'm saying, like, screw it. Let's just get it going. Let's get people energized to say, hey, it's time we are let in on what's happening, and realize that when they say that national security, it really means their family's security. That means those people that they're worried about. Oh, there are people out there. There are people out there in those positions because of the corrupt policies of the corrupt things. So I can't hear that stuff. If somebody's out there in the field, you need to get the hell out, because it's time we're calling this shit out. So, anyways, go ahead.
So your secret party plank is Area 51 disclosure.
Yeah. Oh well, I mean, yeah, that's one of the things. I mean, come on, it's time. It's time people are given the information and given the access and the knowledge of how to process this stuff. That's the only way we're going to go forward as humans. And until we see that everybody on every side, however, the not the top people, the people that are living in the matrix, basically, are doing that because of policies. It's just the results of how the policies interact with the culture and the people around them. That's why you see so many different things, and that's why you see like somebody that's familiar and understanding of a culture is able to tell you, no, that's not what that means. They don't understand the nuances and the pulse, the thread of something. But if they're outside one, they see all the dirt, they see all the things that they don't feel as being addressed. So if we're able to understand each other, that each identity politics is being used to separate us, to exploit, in order to be afraid, whatever, that everybody is responding, everybody is outputting something that is again based off that policy. So that same policy, like the prohibition with the cops, created a paradigm, a dynamic for everybody. So the people that end up going to jail for drinking alcohol or bootlegging, they're not bad people. They're put there because of the paradigm. And then what they do is they make people scared of the alcohol, and then you got people being afraid of this group or this identity or this whatever, because of how it was propagandized to them. So I just want to take it from a macro perspective, so people can say, hey, let's look at the big picture, as if we're 50 years ahead. Let's look back and apply things like we would apply them to the 1930s, 20s, the 40s, to understand how people felt then, and then how they're being so close to what's happening is that sometimes you can't see. So it's like the Russiagate stuff. They want Trump to be, Russian assets so bad that they'll believe anything. At this point, doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter how often you point out WikiLeaks and say, look, Trump is the Pied Piper candidate. Trump is the Pied Piper candidate. If you're putting $4 billion of free airtime, free publicity, that is cheating, it's colluding to prop up a candidate for the Republican Party, not just the Democratic Party, because they cheated both. That's what do you think is going to happen? And then for people on the left to say, oh well, we got to hold our nose, vote Clinton, the same person that gave us. It's like, what's going to stop them from giving us someone else next time? Nothing. It's fear tactics, and that's how they do it. And I feel good about the state of people, because seeing where the left is gaslighting the right with all these wedge issues and BS with the Russia. Like if you hit Trump on selling weapons to Yemen, hit Trump on some of this stuff, on real shit. Don't hit him on, the BS Russia. Because what you're doing is you're pushing his people to have to, to legitly defend something that's BS. And then what you're doing is you're being dishonest, and what you're saying, oh, these people need to be honest, and how can you support this guy when, again, there's the two-party head system. You have to pick a side. The devil, the lesser, the evil. Both sides are doing dirty, and then there's that being inside. You can't see the big picture, but seeing across, you see all their dirt and what they're doing. It's just that.
This is good because like I like it. I like how you're picking out the system's corruption, and you're not picking a side. So you're not whitewashing it, saying, oh, you know, the Democrats aren't as bad as the Republicans. You're saying, hey, I've seen a system wide collapse of trust and accountability and all these other things and values and morals and ethics, and I see where the corruption is, I see where the dirt is, and here it is in a big box. It's not you're not shying away from it, saying, oh, you know what, I'm gonna pick out a cherry pick. You know, here is Republican corruption, but you're saying here's the Democrat corruption, here's the Republican corruption, here is on a platter on a buffet. I'm going to show you the whole thing, the system's failed. I respect that because I wouldn't really respect someone as much if they said, here's everything on Trump. Here's absolutely everything. I got everything on Trump. And where's the Clintons? Oh, you know, they weren't so bad, so let's not talk about that. But here you are laying it out. We'll run this into the legacy media because this is one of your policies. So you're saying that the Pied Piper candidates, you know, the legacy media feeds into the military-industrial complex, which feeds into the politics, which feeds back into the legacy media, and that's how the powers or throw religion in there somewhere or throw something else in there. But this is a circular system, and you're saying one of the ways to end this and end a lot of the corruption on both sides of politics is disrupt the legacy media, break it up. What are you talking about there?
Yeah, I mean that was the telecommunications act that Clinton put out there. Basically consolidate like 100 and something media organizations down to 6. So all your basic media companies from CNN, MSNBC, HBO, all these are owned by like six different companies, and you can Google it if they've got a good picture of like all the people underneath it. So just understanding that, it gives you a better understanding of how how we're getting our information. Like you have Bill Maher and what they do on HBO, acting like he's progressive or whatnot, you know, pushing all these neoliberal policies and trying to make things okay just to be against Trump. And same thing with Colbert, and they utilize these things. I look at it like this: is if you're in a movie theater and you yell fire, that's you get arrested for that. That's you're creating panic. That is what the media is doing. They're creating fear and panic about things that don't need to be feared and panicked about. Like if you're really worried about what someone's going through, you have to understand that. Why do people act out? Why do we think that if we take everything away from someone, push someone, and when they have nothing else to lose, why do you think that they're going to continue feeling like a productive member of society? It just doesn't work. If the media, I mean, that's their backbone. You know, because it's these people, it's this like little crew of people, that little slush fund of people that they're okay with lying, they're okay with being in this little hoity-toity world. Again, there's nothing wrong with money. I got friends with that have money. I've enjoyed a lot of things that people, you know. It's not about money. It's not about, you know, even liking nice things. It's not about liking nice cars or flashy cars. There's nothing wrong with liking things. It's about feeling okay exploiting someone's labor, being predatory with someone, and hurting someone just so you can have a little extra. You know, that's
greed. You're trying to say greed. It's okay. Greed. Once it tips over into greed, it's bad in your world. Yeah, absolutely.
But who defines the word greed? You know, with some of these people, because that's part of the problem is people look at you know, they don't want to look at it as greed because they say, okay, well, this is just the system. This, you know, but the healthcare industry is greed. You know, like
well, when you mentioned insulin before, when it goes to the point where you dangle somebody's life over their head for a few extra dollars. That's excessive greed, and that's what you're angry about. That social injustice of push. If somebody doesn't, if they get $100 or $200 a week welfare, and that's the difference between going poor and living a family fall off the edge or not. The not enabling them to have that resource, money, which is all it is a resource, is excessive greed and letting those people fall over the edge. It's not healthy for your community. It's not healthy for your country. Direct democracy. This is something in your platform.
Yeah, I think that we need to have an app, a government app, so that anything that's a major issue, a major conversation, that we need to be able to vote directly, and then we need to do that statewide, local wide, federal, as well as being able to, if we're going to really do an honest tax system, and which is what we have to talk about. I don't want to hear anything about the deficit when the department, the Pentagon lost over 20-something trillion dollars. They can't account for it. So I don't want to hear anything about about a deficit, because there's a lot of things that we're doing wrong. So I want to make sure that if we are doing this tax system, if that's how we're going to do it, and we can do it in the app, we can direct our money exactly where it needs to go. So a certain amount obviously goes directly to our community, to our neighborhoods. If our roads are screwed up, we need to say, okay, boom, I want to put this towards the road of my taxes. So as you're building, you can actually direct where your taxes go, because everything's synced in to your community. And then there's the other thing too, is the people that are working on these things are direct as well. So you don't have these government contractors that are friends of friends that are up in the price so they can give a kickback, again, when it comes back around. And then that's why you see the roads, they only last 5 years. In China, they're doing roads that last like 30 years. There are a lot of technological advances, a lot of different things we could do to make things. Like we're talking about recycling. They make roads out of tires, old tires. I don't know if you've seen that. They can make asphalt out of old tires. So there's so many.
The Romans built grey roads, by the way. They're still around. They still use those.
It's still around. So I mean, there's the thing. It's like we just have to be creative, and then I think the real incentive has to do with, because we have the internet, because we have this a device that we can do our checks and balances. That it cuts out a lot of the problems that people have with, like when it comes to welfare, people needing help. People are worried about the people that are taking advantage of the system. Well, having a digital system, having a system done right, we should be able to have these checks and balances automatically. That's a job right there, to make sure. We need to make sure that there's social workers involved, and all these different things. So there's the thing, direct democracy. I think that could go along too with the justice system, because the justice system, the criminal justice system, definitely doesn't need to be any money in that either, especially the bail system. Your lawyer, the price of your lawyer, and the lawyer's relationship with the judge should not have anything to do with how guilty or unguilty you are. You know what I mean? Like that's not the truth. Or whether or not you're a threat to society, or it's ridiculous it's ridiculous. And that's why the whole justice is blind thing blew my mind. It's like, if justice is blind, how does she know if somebody's, what I mean, screwing with the, I want justice to be watching, be paying attention. I don't want her to be blind. Yeah, and then of course the blockchain, direct democracy. We want to make sure that your vote's counted, everything, again, checks and balances. We have the capabilities to do that, and we need to put our best people on that. And mismanaged funds, Tennessee, 7-8 years ago, maybe it was more like 10, they got into some flack because they spent like a couple $100,000 on a logo. Just crazy. And same thing with when they did the Obamacare, the healthcare.gov. When they did that, they shipped that outsourced that to China, or not China, Canada, outsourced it to Canada, I believe, and it was not functional whatsoever. You know, so they spend all this money. Uh, so that's important in there because we're going to say who these contracts go to. They're going to go to people in your area, to people that have these expertise. There's your organizing resource.
And the thing you didn't mention is it's on the blockchain, so it's all verifiable. It's all, and you can make money out of it. So that's awesome. In the last few minutes, let's go into term limits. So you're into term limits. Why term limits?
Because these families don't need to be doing. It's a legacy thing, and we'll get onto that too. A lot of these people, they play the game, and they're there to do these contracts, keep the slush fund going. If you're going into public office, that means if you do, you should want to make a change. Just like if you're becoming a doctor, you should want to help people. You should not want to go there just to be rich, you know, and make money off of people dying. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the point. When you work for government, you should be there to serve the people. So I want to make sure that if you're going to serve the people, you only have a certain amount of time to do it. Otherwise, you know, your legacy, your name is on what it is. You know, you can't have Nancy Pelosi. Like, come on, how long has she been in there? In California, Rodolfo Cortez, he was running for, I think he was running for the House seat there. The lady that's in his district, she's been there for 25 years, and her dad was there for like another 30 years. So like the same family has been over half a century in this position in this district. Like, there's something wrong with that? Because they know all the little ins and outs. Every system is corrupt to an extent because they see the BS, and then once you see the BS and then you stop respecting certain things, it makes it easier for you to do more BS because you're not really believing in the system, you know, from the beginning. It's like going to school. Like you see when teachers are you know, are not cool. You know, the ones that are always trying to make trouble or utilize this, or you even see the students that, you know, try to suck up and want to be in this little clip or, you know, crew. So it just, I think this could cut out a lot of the, you know, the career politician stuff.
Yeah, it is disgusting when you see some of these, especially in America, some of these families that go on and on and on, seemingly endlessly, and they have so much power for such a long time, and they know their friends who have the money, who work it back into the media and around like that. You know, even if you like these people, I mean, don't you want some different opinion? Isn't that what democracy is about? It's a circulation of ideas, not just you know, being ruled over by a kleptocratic elite. So let's talk about that. Kleptocrats. So sanctions on legacy families. This would include the Clintons. It would include Trump. It would include a whole bunch of them. Talk about this.
Again, they've run their opportunity, and I think that the only way to well, first of all,
I don't think maybe Trump isn't a good one because Trump hasn't been in there very long. He's not a part of a legacy family. Sorry, continue. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and here's the thing is, with Trump's a whole different beast when it talk about political things. I think he's the patsy. I honestly think he's Clinton's bitch, and that's the way that I would frame it. Because there's plenty enough to put these people in jail today to arrest them. If you want to put somebody in jail, put him in jail. You know, we're obviously not. We're not. We don't have problems with finding things. It's the people that have the problem with, you know, growing the balls to do it. But you know, when it comes to these families, they need to be sure that first of all, I want them to see it while they're alive. I want to make sure that they're alive to see their wealth, that their family, their names become the disgrace that they are, that it's just that the public doesn't, the books aren't written that way because we don't write, the public doesn't write the books. The public doesn't write the mainstream narrative, and the mainstream narrative is society's narrative. That's what we're battling against. Um, Again, I think, well, I think this is going to be a way to scare the hell out of the establishment and let them know we don't want their families. We don't want these families in no more. It's done, because all they're going to come do and try to save their father or whatnot, this, or maybe they're going to try and continue the same thing. I want to do a real probe into the money that they've made and how it's been going on. Find every little nook and cranny that we can to take away all these families have made. All this old money's gone, because if you are caught playing this game, doing these things, this old money is gone. Civil forfeiture, assets frozen. There's a lot of things, and I want to make sure, just on this, I want to make sure that we're going to do. First of all, we're going to do a real suicide watch, so we're not going to have any of the BS Epstein shit happen. No, we're going to do a glass house, because these people deserve, when they go to jail, to be in a glass house, 24/7, Big Brother style, to where people can subscribe to watch their favorite politicians.
You can walk around. You can walk around to the top and have a look down. And
Hey, I'm not playing. That's some real.
I'm glad my name isn't on this list. The Kennedys, McCains, Bidens, and Clintons. My name isn't there, so I'm so happy. I'm free from your wrath.
Well, I mean, and here's the thing. I don't want to. It's not to say that everybody in the family's bad or everybody's toxic. It's just to understand that this is
behavior.
Toxic. Yeah, it is toxic to continue. So if you're
what
upset,
about legacy banker families? Because I didn't see any bankers on here. But what about the J.P. Morgans and Rockefellers, Rothschilds, bankers, and others? I mean, they're the handlers behind the scenes. I mean, are they too big to fry?
No, but I think, though, if we take care of the people that are blocking us from frying them, then we have step by step. First, scare the shit out of the establishment. First off, let them know we're coming for them, and that their family is no longer allowed in these government positions. And what that does is that panics these bankers, these people. 80% of the stock market is the big money. 80% who owns it. Most people don't have $100,000 in the bank, right? So
most people don't have $1,000 in the bank.
If we do the FDIC challenge, which says, hey, these either they get their shit together, or we're going, we crash their system. FDIC. Everybody's the government owes you up to $100,000. They'll give you. So that's why with the people with money need to know, hey, you need to start putting your money and putting your time and energy into people that are going to be there for you, because these legacy families, they're not for people that make money. They're not for the people that have money, that are legit business people that actually do something to provide value to society. They're going to be caught up in the mess when the working class, points the finger at all of them. Because that's, what do you think is going to happen? People are going to, well, they're already blaming money more than they are, the disease of money. Because money doesn't make the man. Money reveals the man, and I truly believe that.
The proletariat are rising against the bourgeoisie overclass. That's what you're trying to say. Look, Chad Wilson.
Yes,
that's
sir.
it. We've run out of time, but hey, look, I had so much fun. We're gonna have you back on another time to talk about your update and how you're going within the Green Party. If you can take it over, put it back on track, set it back on. If you're still alive, if you're not in a Epstein Island somewhere, hopefully not in a Clinton thing. Stay away from that. But
that's why I'm trying to be pro rank and file intelligence agency, so they'll look out for me. I'm gonna look out for you, look out for me. Just give me a little text like they do in the movies. Get the hell out of there. Get the hell out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big fish, but just get big friends. That's all you need. Just and becoming a public figure, it helps. I mean, it assists in that process. So good luck with your marching through the institutions with the Green Party. And we'll talk again. Get an update. I'll probably be going on with Dan Berman at some other point, Libertarian. So we'll do a complete 180, and he'll be talking about not only demolish the legacy families, but the whole state. It's all got to go. It's all freedom-based talk. So that'll be lots of fun. But thanks very much for coming on Detonation.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Good time.
No, absolutely. All right, all more coming all your way all this week, Detonation.